Hello, hello. All right, if you guys can hear me, I want you to press a one in the chat. Do you have a chat option? Like, this is the first time I'm doing a Zoom webinar, so I want to know if, okay, so you can raise your hand. Do you have a chat option? Hello, hello. Okay, hold up. All right, if you guys, okay, so you don't have a chat option. I want to see. Okay, I've got hands raised, a lot of hands raised. All right. Can you tell me if you can, do you have the option to chat?
I don't see an option.
Oh, okay. All right. That is strange. Let's see. Everyone. Oh, okay. How about now? Do you guys see an option now? Okay, amazing. All right, awesome. So I'm just gonna lower all hands. You can mute yourself and let's do this. Okay, so she's on the screen. Let me pin myself, spotlight for everyone. Okay, okay, awesome. Now, okay, amazing. I can see all of you. That is so amazing. All right. Okay, so beautiful. We're gonna start this now. And what I want you to do, I have only one rule for today. Okay, and my only rule is to be fully present for the experience. For to be Okay, hold up. Oh, yeah, that's perfect. To be fully present for the experience, to be fully here. Don't even take notes. All right? Don't take notes. Don't do anything else. Just listen. Listen not to understand, but to embody. Because what we're about to experience today, I was going to take this webinar on a very different trajectory up until yesterday. And then today happened and I quantum leaped. And I was like, holy, this is what I want to talk about. All right. So we are not just going to be talking about manifestation today. We're not just playing with affirmations or vision boards. We're going to be rewriting literal laws of reality. We will literally like understand reality in a whole different way that is going to blow your freaking mind. I'm also streaming this on YouTube. I don't know if it's playing, but let's, fingers crossed. Okay. But this is about jumping timelines. And by the end of this, you will never see reality the same way again. We're not shifting mindsets here. We are not even changing paradigms. We are simply and purely here to break through the matrix, to collapse every single limitation you have ever known. So if you have questions throughout all of this, if you have any questions, what you're going to do is simply write it down on a piece of paper. And then if you still have that question by the time we've finished, then I'll give you guys an opportunity to ask questions. If that sounds fair, just press a one in the chat. If that sounds fair. A one in the chat. Okay. Awesome. Amazing. Okay, just just for right now, for a moment, I want you to tell me, pop in the chat, where are you tuning in from? Where are we all here connected from? There's 72 of you here, and there's someone from India, Montreal. Okay, there, wow. That is such a global, beautiful to read that, to know that. Oh, Australia, it must be super late for you. Wow. Okay, amazing. I love you guys and I love your commitment to be here. And I promise you that I will give you the most out of your commitment to me. And I honor it so much. Okay. So let's talk about why we're here. All right. The law of delusion specifically. Now, our conditioned belief about the 3D, how we perceive this dimensional world where we can see objects and we can hold things and we perceive it as reality. This is what we call reality, right? This is real life. It's how in our everyday conversations, people are like, oh, yeah, like this is reality. Think about things realistically. And so delusions are said to be statements or beliefs that don't conform to reality, to the 3D world. And we're always told to be realistic. You need to map out your plan. You need to have a safety net. You need to think about the structure. What are the steps? Okay, you have a goal. That's not enough. You need to know the step by step process of how you will get there. And for sure, that is a very real way that people achieve their goals. That is a very real way, but it's also the way of suffering. It is also the way that people burn themselves out. It is also the way of pain. Because when you are married to the religion of facts, then you disconnect from your birthright, which is to live a life in flow, to live a life of ease, and to live a life of pure ecstasy, because we did not come here in the world to suffer. And so today is about redefining the word delusion. But first, what I want to do is I want you to change the way that you understand and experience space and time. And this is going to blow your mind. But before we even do that, one thing I want you to become aware of is what it means to consent to something. It doesn't matter. And I say this with all the love in my heart, but it doesn't matter whatever is happening in your life right now. Irrespective of the contents of your current 3D, whether things are absolutely terrible or they're amazing, whatever it is, the one thing I want you to know is the truth that broke my heart. But this truth liberated my soul. And this truth is the difference that made the difference for me. And the truth about what it means to consent to a reality. Because whatever is going on over here right now, this is a state of consciousness that you consented to. And the thing is that most people, and I was one of those people, I used to fight this truth. I used to say, no, I didn't consent to this. I remember when my mentor, she told me this, and this was like a month ago, right? This was before I quantum freaking leaped. She said, Anna, you might not like hearing this, but you have to accept that on some level, whether consciously or unconsciously, you consented to the life that you're living. And what was that life? That life was a reality where everything was just stagnant in my life. Things were good sometimes, and then they were terrible. And anytime I had to grow, I had to go to really, really, really low lows. And that I could not, I did not actually believe in a reality where things were always effortless for me. And I was so focused on the habits part, on the doing part. And I was like, oh, you don't understand. It's because I don't have my habits locked in yet, that my reality isn't mirroring that back to me yet. And she said, Anna, you've fallen complacent to your reality. You accepted it to be the law of life. And so every experience you're having and you've had has mirrored that consent back to you. And I felt angry. I felt angry. I said, no, that's not true, because I have been healing. You see, I've been doing the work. I study this stuff day in and day out. I do the meditations. I wake up and the first thing I do is meditate. I meditate before I sleep. I do journaling. I have so many freaking journals. Like, there's so many things. I did not consent to results not appearing in my external reality. And she said, well, if you believe that the work you've done, if you believe that it is done, why is it still an intellectualized truth, but not an embodied one? Why is it still an intellectualized truth, but not an embodied one? How come every time you open your eyes after a meditation, you still believe in the pictures in the 3D reality? This feels more real to you than your own inner knowing. And that's when I realized two things. And it doesn't matter what your religion is, but God tells us, I am how you think of me. How you perceive God is exactly the way that he makes your reality look like. And then he also says, Not a single leaf turns without his will. And this is where the illusions fall apart. Because I don't like, no matter our religions, I have now understood and seen that every person I have so far spoken to grew up with the belief that, oh, like, everything in life is supposed to be a test. Life is supposed to be hard. Oh, God is always testing you. Test this. I grew up with such a heavy belief that life is just a test, right? And so that's what I believed of God. That's what I attributed all my pain to, that, oh my God, God doesn't want me to be happy. Because if he did, life would be different. Isn't it true that nothing happens without his will? Then why has he willed pain for me? Why is it that all I experience are crappy things, right? And like many people, I grew up with such a distorted understanding of God and reality that it signed me up for so much pain because there was such a big difference between God, the spiritual realm, and the physical realm. There was always the separation that I learned about, that okay, like this physical world and God is someone up there on like some, way above in the sky on a throne or whatever, and just like watching everyone, and he's mean and he's a bully, and it didn't make sense. And there was always a part of my soul that knew that that wasn't true. But the people who taught me, the people who spoke about these things, they seemed to have read the books. They seemed pretty religious to me. They were praying and they were doing this and they were doing that. And I said, but then if they pray so much, why do they suffer so much? If they're always like they're the people who populate mosques, churches, but why are they so angry? Why do they, like, if this stuff works, why are they not at peace? And the truth is that our fundamental understanding of the test of life has been wrong all along. See, the test of life is actually perception, but we're going to get to that in another moment. Uh, where I want to talk about time and space with you first. What are time and space? And what I'm about to tell you, I want you to buckle the heck up for this. Now, think about dimensions, right? We hear the word 4D a lot. And even in my content, you hear the word 4D all the time. I'm like 4D this, 4D that, right? But before we jump into the 4D bombshell, let's understand a bit more clearly what even a dimension is, right? So a dimension is not a line. It is simply a measure of existence. It's a level of reality that adds complexity to the one before it. A dimension is a measure of existence. It's a level of reality that adds complexity to the one before it. Okay? So each dimension builds on the last one. All right? So for example, we're going to get to the example in a moment, but it adds depth, it adds movement, it adds experience. And the more dimensions that you add, the more complex, vivid, and dynamic reality becomes. But here's the kicker. Every dimension is fully contained within the next one. The higher dimension will see the lower one completely, but the lower dimension cannot perceive the higher one. This is why if you drew like a piece of like a line on a piece of paper over here, if you drew this, you can see the line, right? You can see every point in a drawing on a piece of paper, but the characters in the drawing can't see you because you are above their dimension. I mean, we all learned this in school, right? You see their world completely, but they can't perceive yours. But hold on to that thought because when we get to the 4D, this is going to blow your mind. Now, 1D is the dimension of length, right? So we're going to start at the beginning. The first dimension is the dimension of length. It's literally just a line, a single line with no width, with no height. It's just length. It's the simplest form of existence, just one line that goes on forever in both directions. In the first dimension, there's no up, there's no down, there's no left or right, no movement, no space, no time. A being in 1D would only perceive a single point. They wouldn't see the line because they're in it. They would only see the point that they're on. They would have no awareness of any other point on the line because 1D, the first dimension, it's only length, it's flat, it's eternal. And that's the most basic level of existence. There's no change, no movement, no experience. It's like a dot on an infinite line, always there, but never moving. Does that make sense so far? Press a one in the chat if that makes sense. Oh my God, there's 76 things in the chat already. All right, it's making sense to you. Okay, amazing. All right, so everyone gets 1D, right? Amazing. Awesome. You guys are amazing. I love it. All right, so now we get to 2D. All right. By the way, if you have a question, right? There's who lives in no nobody lives in 1D. If you have a question, I think there's like a question box separately because there's so many chats in the chat that it might get lost, and I want to honor your question, so just have it or keep it with you for now. Okay. 2D, the dimension of flat space. Now, when we add another dimension to 1D, when you add width to length, you get 2D. And the second dimension is the dimension of flat space. So this is like, on a piece of paper, if there's a drawing, a cartoon, it has length, it has width, but it doesn't have depth, right? If you see the stick figures on my chart papers, right? So if I were to like draw a stick figure right now, hold up, like this, that's 2D. Okay. This doesn't have depth, but it's on a flat paper. It has, and in the 2D, you can move left, you can move right, you can move up and down, but there's no in and out, no forward or backward. There's no depth. A being in 2D would be flat, just like the stick figure. They would have no awareness of depth or volume. They would see shapes, but not forms. And they would experience space as a flat surface. Everything is in front of them or behind them, but never around them, right? So they could move across the surface, but they can't ever jump off of it. They're stuck on a plane confined to a flat world. If you were to lift a 2D character off the page, they would disappear from their world. They would have no idea where they went because up and down doesn't exist in 2D. In 2D, space is flat, time is still. There's no depth, there's no volume, there's no change. It's just a static, flat world. Now, 3D, which is the dimension that we know, it's the dimension when you add another dimension to 2D, you get 3D, which is our physical world, right? It is the dimension of volume and space. This is the world of height, width, depth, the world of objects, forms, shapes. In the 3D, you can move up and down, you can move left and right, you can move forward, backwards, you experience space as a volume. Everything has form, everything has depth. You don't just see shapes, you see objects. You don't just see lines, you see whole ass bodies. And this is why you can pick up objects, you can walk around with them, you can look behind them. You're not confined to a plane. You exist in volume and space. So in 3D, space is dynamic, time is linear, it's a straight line, objects move, experiences change, events occur in sequence 1, 2, 3, 4. So you experience past, present, and future. You see objects coming towards you, right? If this was coming towards me or moving away. So you interact with the environment. But here's the kicker. You see 2D completely. You see every point on a piece of paper. You see the front and back of a drawing. You can lift a 2D character off the page, but a 2D character can't see you. They're confined to their plane. They can't perceive depth or volume, just like you can't perceive the 4D. The 4D, all right, here we go. When you add time, the 4D is the dimension of time. When you add time to length, width, depth, you get 4D. 4D is time itself. It's not just movement through space, it is the container that holds all timelines. In 4D, every possible timeline exists at the same time. Every version of you, every choice, every possibility is happening right now. And all of them coexist in the 4D canvas of time. You are not moving through time. Your mind is moving through timelines. 4D is time, and your mind is the 4D. It is time. Your mind is time. We have been taught our whole lives that time is linear. The past is behind you. The future is ahead of you. The present is this moment. We measure time by clocks and calendars. We divide it into seconds, minutes, hours, days, years. We experience it as a straight line moving from past, present to future. But that is the biggest illusion of all. Time is not linear. Time is 4D. And your mind is the object, is the vehicle that travels through it. Mind is time. Think about it. The only reason you experience time is because your mind is active. When you're awake, your mind is constantly moving. It replays memories of the past. It anticipates events in the future. It narrates the present moment. Your mind is constantly traveling through timelines. And this is why you can remember the past. You can imagine the future. You can relive old moments and you can anticipate new ones because your mind creates the illusion of time. Your mind is time. Your mind is time. This is why time feels different depending on your state of mind. Think about this. Think about moments when you're bored, okay, or anxious. Time feels slow. It's almost painful. But when you're in flow, when you're inspired, when you're deeply just present, time flies. It's how the saying goes, time flies when you're having fun. Why? Why does time fly when you're having fun? Because the mind, it's not that the time changes, it's your state of mind because mind is time. Does that make sense? Does that freaking make sense? We're going to talk about the body. We're going to talk about the body. Don't worry about it, okay? I got you. All right? But just I told you guys questions, keep them, write them down. Hold that thought, get out of question mode, be in listening mode, be in embodiment mode, okay? Now, the illusion of linear time, right? We experience time to be linear because our mind moves in sequences. It will narrate stories in a chronological order. So it will remember events in a timeline and imagine the future in sequences because time, but time itself is not a straight line. It's where everything exists simultaneously. So the past, the present, the future, they're actually happening all at once. All timelines, all realities, all dimensions coexist in the 4D. And your mind is what navigates through the 4D canvas. It chooses which timeline to observe. Where's the timeline? Right now. Your mind decides which sequence to experience. When you remember the past, you are not recalling a memory from somewhere behind you. You're revisiting a timeline. You're traveling through time. When you imagine the future, you're not daydreaming. You're observing a new timeline. Your mind is constantly traveling time. It is constantly jumping between timelines. You don't move through time. Your mind moves through timelines because time does not exist when the mind is still. When your mind is quiet, that's when you feel like Time is, it changes, right? Or think about this. Think about your dreams. Think about how weird dreams are. Time stretches, bends, overlaps in dreams all the time. When you're asleep, time doesn't feel the same. Like when you're awake through the day, you can feel the hours passing by when your mind is aware and it's awake. But when you fall asleep, you can be sleeping for 12 hours, but it's like, oh, I fell asleep and then you're awake. You're not aware of each of those 12 hours. Even in dreams, that's why time doesn't feel the same. You can live literally like, you can live an entire lifetime in a dream within minutes. You can jump from one scene to another instantly. Like, you're here, you're in your house, and then suddenly you see something else and someone else, and you're like, wait, what is happening? How are all of these things happening at the same time? You jump from one scene to another instantly. You can experience events out of order simultaneously or not at all, because when your mind is still, you are outside of time. Your mind is the narrator of time. When the narrator is quiet, time stops. The illusion falls apart. When you're in deep meditation, it feels like time stands still. Like I've had moments, I've done meditations that were like 2 hours long, right? And it felt like 10 minutes. I was just in a different state of being. My mind checked out. I remember this one walking meditation I did. So in that meditation, this was Dr. Joe Dispenza's Walk for the World. Okay, so we were like a group of people, and what happened was like the way that the meditation was that we would close your eyes. Okay, place your hand on your heart and become really aware of the change you're transforming into, so on and so forth. It was like I think it was a 90-minute long meditation. I don't know, or maybe an hour long. And so you do that, and then you open your eyes and you walk as that change, okay? But you're looking at the physical reality, but you're in your own trance. And by the time the meditation ended, I swear to God, we were I think a group of 10 people, and we were like, wait, what? That felt like 10 minutes at best. We were walking, we were closing our eyes, we were stopping, but that did not feel like so much time had passed because the mind was still. Time is a construct of your mind. 4D is time and mind is time. So when you master your mind, you master time. You are able to collapse time. When you quiet your mind, you step outside of time. When you expand your mind, you bend time because you are not bound by time. You are the observer of time. You're not limited by time. You're not moving through time. Your mind is moving through timelines. And this is how you collapse time. This is how you jump timelines. When you realize how freaking deep this hits, everything shifts in that moment instantly, every single thing, because the future, your future or your desire, that is no longer somewhere out there. That is not in a faraway future, because a faraway future does not exist. Time is the now. It is the only thing is the present moment. The separation is what your mind creates. Therefore, quantum leaping in essence is recognizing that time is constructed by your mind, but you are not the mind. You are not the mind. You are the awareness. You are the observer who is aware that there is a mind. And that mind experiences time. It is this awareness that allows you to break all the freaking laws and limitations of time, to collapse it, to move at the speed of God, because you finally realize there is no time. There was never time. And I want you to like have this little experiment with me right now, okay? I want you to, wherever you are, just for a moment, just close your eyes, okay? Just for a moment, close your eyes. And all right. I think I'm sharing, yeah. So close your eyes and just embody this state of awareness where you are the observer. Every thought, every belief, every single thing is is something that you can observe, but it is not who you are. Feel yourself anchor in the present moment. Allow your thoughts to literally just float away like clouds, to come and go as they please. And notice that there's nowhere to go. There is no time. And without thought, without past memories, there is no past. Without future anticipation, there is no future. Literally sink all your energy and awareness into this moment. You are here. You are now. You are outside of time. This is 4D mastery. This is mind mastery, time mastery. In this state of just being so fully aware, so fully anchored in the present moment, where the only thing that exists is you, your awareness, and just that. In this state, you can jump timelines, collapse time, move at the speed of God, because you now know you are not bound with time. You are outside time. You're not limited by time. You are the observer of time. This is rewriting your past. This is collapsing time on your manifestations. This is quantum leaping in your choice of timeline, because time is 4D. Mind is time. You are not a prisoner of time. You are the architect of it. You are not moving through time. Time is moving through you. You are timeless. You are eternal, infinite, the observer of time, the chooser of timelines. Your mind is the vehicle that moves through this 4D canvas. Your mind narrates time. Your mind positions you in space and time. But you are eternal, and you exist in this moment. When you become awake to who you are, awareness, you give yourself permission to collapse every single law, logic, to defy all odds. Because you're aware that you are the chooser of your timeline. And you can open your eyes and just notice the difference in your own awareness, the awareness of just this present moment, because this is all that is there. But now we're going to go deep into the second part of this, okay? And I'm moving a little fast because, I know that it said 90 minutes and it sounds like a lot of time, but there's just I want to share all of this with you, okay? So we're going to go into the second part of this 3D shattering illusion, which is space. So if time is created by the mind, right, then space is created by, what do you think it's created by? Yeah, pun was so intended. What do you think space is? If mind creates time, all right, what do you think space is created by? The body? Okay. Okay. So memories at wow. Perception. Space is created by perception. We have all been taught that space is physical, right? It's the distance between two objects. This is space. It's measured by length, with height. We look outside and we see a world filled with separations, filled with distance. We see objects that are over there and we're all the way here. We look at our desires and they feel so far away. But what if I told you space is not physical at all? Distance is not real. Separation is a freaking illusion because space is not out there. Space is in here. Space is perception. And I'm going to break this down for you, okay? But I want to sip of water. One sec. Okay, how perception creates space. The only reason you experience space is because you perceive it. You don't actually experience space directly. You experience space through your senses. You see the distance between you and the wall. You hear sounds that are coming from across the room. You feel the space around you through your body. Your perception is what creates space. It is what creates distance. It is what makes things feel separate. But here's the kicker. Perception is subjective. It is not fixed. It is not objective. It is changeable. That is why two people can be in the same room and experience completely different realities. That's why optical illusions can trick your mind into seeing things that aren't there. It's why hallucinations can feel real even though nothing is physically happening. Because space isn't physical, space is perceptual. Okay? Because if you close your eyes right now, uh, okay, just for a second, close your eyes without looking. When your eyes are closed and you're not looking, where is the room that you're sitting in? Where is the space around you? Where is the distance between you and the wall? It's gone. The moment you close your eyes, the moment you shut off the perception from your eyes, space collapses because your perception isn't creating it anymore. Again, we're going to come back to our dream analogy. In your dreams, you can teleport, you can freaking walk through walls, you can exist in multiple places at once. Why? Because your perception of space is not active. Your mind is not using your senses to create distance. That is why time and space get weird in dreams. You can be in multiple locations at the same time, live an entire lifetime in a matter of minutes. You can bend laws of physics without even trying because space is created by perception. And when perception is still, space collapses. Space is created by your inner world. We think that space is external, but it is internal. You are not in space. Space is in you. Space is literally how you position yourself in relation to the world. It is how you perceive your relationship to the environment. This is why when you're in love, everything feels so closer, so vibrant, you feel so connected. But when you're in pain, the world feels distant and cold and separate. It's why when you feel confident, people are drawn to you. But when you feel insecure, people avoid you. You didn't change locations, you changed your perception. You collapse space by shifting your state of being. Because space is not physical, space is not emotional, space is emotional, space is perceptual. Your inner world creates your outer world. Your internal state shapes your external space. When you change your state and you change your perception, you change your perception. When you change your perception, you collapse space. Does that make sense? Press a one in the chat if that makes sense. A one in the chat, please. Or if you're just blown away. Because what even, right? I love that. Okay, awesome. You guys are amazing. All right. So let's if space is created by perception, all right, and then collapsing space, is about shifting perception, because you don't have to get like you don't have to travel to get somewhere. You change your state of being and the space collapses. You shift dimensions, you jump timelines just by changing your perception. This is why when you really think about someone, I remember this one time, I was thinking about a teacher of mine from, like, I don't know, 10th grade or something, and it had been like 5 years since I saw that guy. I just randomly thought of him, right, during the day. I go to this restaurant for dinner with my family that night. He was there. I hadn't seen the dude in 5 years, and he was there, and he came up to me. Or when you just think, like, there's so many times when I will think about someone and they will instantly call me, and I'm like, what is going on, right? You didn't move closer to them. You collapsed space by shifting in a timeline where you were already connected. That's why when you focus on an opportunity, it shows up in your life. You didn't chase it down. You collapsed space by aligning with the version of you who already had it. So when you change your state, the people around you change. You didn't change them. You changed your perception. You shifted your dimension. You collapsed your space. You don't have to go to your desires. So many of us, we are so fixated. Like, even when I'm reading some of the YouTube comments, we're so fixated on, my environment, these people in my life, that. Honey, you don't have to change anything in the external world. Do you recognize how liberating that is? Nothing in the external has anything to do with your ability to quantum leap, with your ability to bend time, with your ability to collapse space. You don't have to chase opportunities. They are magnetized to you. You don't have to wait for love. Love is drawn to you by your frequency. Someone commented just earlier today, she was like, oh, I have been trying to manifest a partner and, like, still not happening. And, what do I do? Do I need to download an app? Why is he still not here? If you're still in the questioning phase, you're not being it. You're not the frequency of love. You're the frequency of the lack of it. And obviously, your reality shows that, because that's what your perception is showing you. You don't move through space, space moves through you. You are not separate from your desires. Your desires are within you. You're not apart from your dreams. Your dreams are extensions of you. So when we bring this all together, I want you to recognize we've already shattered the illusion time is linear and space is physical. We established time is 4D, space is perception. Time is created by the mind, space is created by perception. So that means when you shift your perception, space, and change your mind, time, you collapse space and time. You jump timelines, you rearrange realities. But what does that actually mean, Anna? How do we do this in real life, right? So we're going to break this down, okay? Now, the what I want now, once you've understood time isn't linear, right? It's not a straight line from past, present to future, not a sequence of events to move through. It's multidimensional. So right now, in this moment, every possible timeline exists at the same time. Every version of you, every possibility, every potential reality is already happening right now. It's not out there. Like this, I want you to, if there's one thing you embody today, all right? If there's one thing, it must be this. There is nowhere else to go, nowhere else to access your desires from but this freaking moment. The timeline where you're wildly successful right now, where you're struggling right now, where you're madly in love right now, heartbroken right now. Everything coexists in the 4D. They're not ahead of you, they're not behind you, they are parallel to you. You are not moving through time. So when we talk about quantum leaping, when we talk about like literally overnight reality shifting, that is nothing but simply a change of mind and perception. You choose which version of reality to observe. That's why manifestation is instant. You don't create something out of thin air. God, no. What are you, God? No. You are shifting to a timeline where it already exists because creation is finished. Creation is finished. Every timeline, every possible outcome for life, everything exists right now. Manifestation is not about creating anything. And when you think that it is, when you think that you like to manifest means to create something, that I'm bringing it into existence or whatever, that puts so much burden on you because when you don't see it appear in the 3D, you're like, oh, you know, what more do I have to do? And you start to suffer because you think that like you failed to create this thing. But a creation is finished. Everything's already here. You're just choosing your timeline in the now. The only thing that exists, this is why quantum leaps defy logic. This is why by I think 30th Jan, we were on, like, my YouTube had like 700 subscribers. How on earth, tell me logically, how on earth is it possible that from 700, which I had been posting, give or take for like a year, we went to freaking almost 7K in less than 30 days? Because quantum leaps defy logic. I did not do any single thing different. I simply shifted my state of consciousness because and that's like that's a choice that is very easily and very freely available to every single person. That is your birthright. That is your birthright. You are not achieving something step by step. You are collapsing time by jumping to the version of you who already has it. You're not waiting for the future. You are choosing, what timeline do I want to experience? What do I want my normal to be? What do I want my baseline to be? This is what it means to bend reality, to collapse space and time, because you finally wake up to the realization that, wait, I'm not bound by linear time. It doesn't matter what happened 2 minutes ago, 2 days ago, 2 years ago in your freaking childhood. None of that matters because you are multidimensional. You are not limited by the past. That moment is over. That reality is gone. When you shift to a higher state of consciousness, you disconnect from that past. You disconnect from it. It doesn't have to hold more weightage over you. You are not limited by physical space. You are quantum. You're a spiritual being that is having a human experience. But when you forget the spiritual essence of you, then you're just in the human experience. And there is time and there is space and everything is separate and you suffer. And that is where people worship the religion of facts and logic. But this is why the awareness of your spiritual essence, of your true nature, of who you really are. This is why when you're in deep, states of deep flow, when you're in meditation, when you simply become God conscious, aware of God, conscious of God, you feel timeless and spaceless. Because in those states, your mind and perception are still. You don't narrate time, you don't perceive space. You are outside of 4D and 3D. You are outside of time and space. And so you're connected to the quantum field where everything exists at once, in the realm of infinite timelines, in the void of limitless possibilities. This is why the present moment is so powerful, because in the present moment, time collapses, space ceases to exist. In the present moment, all timelines converge into one. When you master the present moment, when you can become so anchored in it, where you're not thinking about the past or worrying about the future, you're just here living from moment to moment, being present. You master space and time. When you become still within, that's when you collapse time. When you hold the state of your wish fulfilled, you are that. You are in that timeline, because that is how quantum leaps work. You don't make them happen. There's no structure. There's no strategy. You just simply shift to a higher state of consciousness where you already have it. You're already there. You're not creating anything new. You're choosing a new reality that already exists. Time is moving through you. You are not separate from your desires. They are already within you. You're not waiting for the future. You're simply choosing which version of reality to observe. And this is where the law of delusion comes in, because we have been told our whole lives delusion is a bad thing. It is unrealistic. Tell me, are you following me so far? Okay, press a one in the chat if you're following me so far. You get this so far. Okay, amazing. Awesome. All right. So, the law of delusion, guys, let's get to this, okay? We have been told all our life delusion is a bad thing. It's unrealistic. But what is realistic, right? To simply go by your perceptions? Remember I said the test of life is your perception. Now, God said that we create a man from a sperm drop mixture so that we may test him, and we gave him hearing and sight. We made him hear and see. Your perception, the test of life is just the test of perception. It is hearing and seeing. Will you believe in what your senses are telling you, or will you keep believing in the unseen, in the realm of infinite, the only reality, the power of the doer of everything, even when your senses defy it, even when your belief feels illogical? Because here's the thing, quantum leaps are not ever logical. Like get that, like embody that so hard. They are not logical. They are not. They cannot be explained by logic. And that is why logic needs to go out the door. This is not the room. This is not the table for logic, right? You can't sit with us. But I want you to redefine the word delusion today. When someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, Ash, are you delusional?" You're going to be like, when they question your vision, your inner convictions, and your inner knowing, you're just going to look at them and be like, "Yeah, I am. Why aren't you? Why aren't you?" Because a delusion is a reality. This is how you will define delusion from now on. A delusion is a reality that only I can see, because your reality is as unique to you as your fingerprint. The way that life will work for you will only work for you that way. It is not meant to work for me that way, because I did not convict in the things that you convicted in. My perception and my mind and my perception are different from yours, which is why my life will work differently than yours. And that gives you, that's why, no, it doesn't matter what the masses believe. The only time that you will experience the same reality as them is if you give in to their delusions. Everyone in the world is delusional. Everyone in the world is believing in something that is true for them and only them. But when you bring all these people believing in the same delusion, what happens? It becomes true for the masses. And that's why when they see someone who is experiencing a reality that's different than what they have believed or convicted in, they'll be like, "Oh, that guy's just lucky. He just had a winning streak, born with a freaking spoon, silver spoon or whatever." It is not luck. It is conviction. It is your own, like your own consent. Before I saw my YouTube girl, I started to convict in a reality where I said, no, 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 no. I only create content that helps people shift their timelines instantly. I saw a comment, someone said, "Anna, I've been watching your content for just the past 2 days or something. And I can see the shift in my reality." And I wasn't shocked. I wasn't even phased. I said, "Yeah, of course." Because I know that my delusion is a reality that only I can see until it's not. Until it's not. But that perception of space between my inner knowing versus the 3D mirroring that back to me, that is what it's all about. Because if I am practicing this reality and I'm visualizing it and I'm convicting it in my mind, in my inner knowing, and I'm closing my eyes, I'm getting lost in my wish fulfilled, but I open my eyes and I believe in what the 3D is showing me, then what am I doing? I'm not convicted. Once again, I am lowering my state of consciousness. And that is why so many people still keep doubting their ability to manifest, their ability to quantum leap, because they are still in question mode. They're still in doubt. Like they need to see evidence. The moment you say, you know what, I do not need evidence. You don't need evidence from the physical world to know that your inner world is the only reality. It does not, you don't need validation. You don't need permission. You are free to choose. Your convictions are free. It is your birthright. The law of delusion is the law of being your inner reality, being your inner reality and believing in it as if it is the only reality, because it is. Because if space is perception and time is mind, how do you navigate timelines and collapse space and time at will? This is where convictions, consent, and delusions come in. They're the tools of perception. They're the coordinates which you give your mind to position you in space and time. These are the quantum commands that project reality to your delusion. Convictions anchor you in a state. Consent allows you to receive experiences. And delusion is your inner knowing that collapses space and time. So we're going to break this down even more. All right. Convictions, anchoring in a timeline. Convictions are the most powerful anchors in space and time. They are unshakable truths that you live by. Every single thing in your reality right now is something that you have convicted to on a deep conscious or unconscious level, but you convicted to it. Because when you hold a conviction, you anchor yourself in a state. You literally lock in a timeline. You declare which version of reality is true for you. My conviction used to be what? Oh, like, every day when I post a video out, it gets like 100 views. If a good day, 300 views, whatever. That's just the normal for me. It's normal for me that, like I hardly get DMs. People hardly even reach my content. It's normal that my content is not reached by the people it's meant to impact. That was my conviction. I hated to admit it because I kept saying that, no, 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 I want this. I want this. To want means to not have. So I kept convicting I don't have it. And what did the 3D show me? You don't have it. Cool. You believed it. See it. When you're convicted in a truth like it is the only reality, which is true for all our convictions so far that have created our current reality, it is projected outside. So this gives us a great opportunity, right? This gives us the opportunity to recognize that if you change your convictions, if you change the convictions you marry yourself to, you shift the 3D picture. Because when you hold a conviction, you quantum lock a timeline. You collapse the time it takes to get there. You are no longer moving towards your manifestation. You're not going to it. You are living from it. You're no longer wishing for your desires. You are embodying the state of already having them. This is why doubt delays manifestations. Doubt delays it. It's not that your desires are taking time. It's your convictions are jumping between timelines. In the morning, you're like, oh, I'm so convicted. In the afternoon, you're like, oh, where is that little manifestation of mine? Still not here. You're still looking for evidence. You are wobbling between states and shifting between dimensions. But when you hold a conviction with unshakable certainty, with the knowing that this is the only thing that exists, you collapse time. You lock in that new timeline. You quantum leap to the version of you who's already there. You don't make it happen. You align with the timeline where it is, what already is. You don't figure out the how. You don't get logical with it. You don't get structured with it. You embody the version of you who already knows. The law of delusion states that if you can become one with your desires, with the delusional belief that they have already come true, and you live in this state every single day, you will obviously see it mirrored back in the 3D with the same obviousness that that when it rains outside, it's raining outside. There's this obviousness to it. That is how obvious it's going to be. Because whatever truth you marry yourself to, good or bad, it is bound to show up as affirmative evidence in your life. What one can believe, one can conceive and perceive. But here's the thing. I know I'm moving at like the speed of light, and I know you guys are with me. Just press a one if you're still with me. Press a one if you're still with me. Okay, amazing. Is it landing for you guys? Okay, I love the ones in the chat. You guys are freaking amazing. You're so amazing. I love you all. So the entire process, right? It is an act of active, consistent imagination. If you can make your imagination feel so real that people would call you delusional for believing in something that doesn't exist yet in the physical reality, the physical world will eventually catch up to match your energy, your state of consciousness. If instead of thinking about your desired reality, you think from it, you will collapse space and time, and your desires will be drawn to you in the most unexpected ways. And here's the thing about quantum leaping: if you can predict how it happens, it is not a quantum leap. If you can predict it, it came from the mind. The thing about quantum leaps is that they blow your mind. You're like, wait, I can't explain to you how this happened. Like one of my friends, she texted me and she was like, "How did you grow your YouTube?" I was like, "Convictions." Like I don't know how to explain to you. There is no strategy. It makes you laugh because everyone thinks that there has to be some step-by-step structure. There isn't. There isn't. There's just a state of consciousness to shift. The name of the game is to keep believing, to never let a shadow of doubt come between you and your delusion, the reality that only you can see, to keep living from that state of its fulfillment, knowing that there is nothing to desire if you have it already. Hear it again. There is nothing to desire if you already have it. Because that is the difference that makes the difference. If you desire something, you're sending the energetic signature that you don't have the thing that you want. Therefore, your frequency attaches itself to the frequency of the reality where you don't have the thing because you keep desiring it. And that's why it always feels like it's right there, just slightly out of your reach. You're still desiring. I want this partner to come into my life. I want the abundance. I want this thing. To want is to state you don't have. Because want is not about whether you have it in the physical realm or not. It is about have you given it to yourself energetically? What happens when you become one with it? You think, feel, act, be, believe, breathe from the state of your fulfillment. When every cell in your body vibrates to the rhythm of the reality where your dreams are a present fact. You send out you're on a very different timeline. You're in a timeline of wholeness, abundance, gratitude. You are simply grateful that you have everything you once used to desire. You collapse time and space, and you by law experience a reality where your fulfilled wishes find you, come to you, magnetize to you. Your convictions mirror the awareness that you are ready to consent. You have consented to an entirely new reality. You're ready to receive. And then all there is to do is be, is receive. That's it. But how can you receive if day in and day out you're fluctuating states of consciousness? Day in and day out, you're like, oh, I have it. Okay, yeah, I don't. Anna, hello. Where's my manifestation? Can you tell me? No. Once you're in it, once you're being it, stay there. Stay there long enough to find out what happens when you stay convicted. Whew. The energy, man. Okay, so the sticks. Okay, no, we're nearing the end. We've already hit an hour long mark. I cannot even. I don't know how that happened. Where is the time? Where did the time go? Time doesn't exist, remember? So the 6 steps of the law of delusion. All right. And then I'm gonna tell you these 6 steps. This is where you can write these down. All right. You have the permission to write. So 6 steps of the law of delusion, and then we're gonna go in a very short but insanely powerful activation. Okay, I'm just so happy. Like, what the heck is this? All right, so step one. All right, step one. Know the end. Know the end. Now, when I talk about knowing the end, here's what I want you to recognize. A lot of times people, when they're creating that end for themselves, when you ask them, what do you want your 3D to look like? What is the end for you? They're like, okay, well, you will use this current reality as a reference point or the past as a reference point. But what is it that you actually desire for your life to be like, look like, sound like, feel like if your past didn't exist? If this didn't exist, what reality would you allow yourself to dream of? So you have to know your end from a point of timelessness, of the awareness of all possibilities, all potentials. So when you, after this little, experience today, quantum shift today, you're going to take your journal and you're going to write down what is my desired end from a point of timelessness, of the awareness of all possibilities. Write it and get very clear on what is your end. Step 2 is your self concept. Now, your self concept is how you perceive the world and how you perceive yourself in relation to the world. This is where your new convictions come in. This is about what type of a person do you believe you are? Right? Are you lucky, unlucky? Some people are like, oh, like I always meet narcissists. Okay, yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. That's a part of your self concept, right? So screw whatever you've believed up until this moment and ask yourself, what do I want to believe now? It doesn't matter what happened 2 minutes ago, 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago in your childhood. Nothing matters. Everything exists right here, right now. So this is where you write your new convictions. What is true for you now? How do people perceive you now? How does the world work for you now? How do things happen for you now? Because way before you guys were magnetized to my reality, think about this. Beginning of this month, I had another webinar, the Zero BS Manifestation. So many of you have bought it as well. But when it took place at that time, I was marketing it for like 2 weeks, and we had maybe like 40 people sign up, and I think 15 or 20 people showed up live. That's it. This idea for this transmission came to me on maybe Monday or Tuesday night, and I was inspired, and I said, "Oh, okay, it's gonna happen on Friday." And I just know that's like so many people are gonna experience this because I convicted to a timeline where that reality was the baseline for me. If you told me like 2 months ago, oh yeah, Anna, you just like thought of like a webinar or whatever, and you just did it, and like you just posted about it a couple of times, and that's it. And a lot of people showed up, like more than any person at any amount of people that have ever attended your live thing at the same time. I would have been like BS. But it's about the change of my self concept. When my self concept shifted, my 3D shifted overnight, right? So this is step 2. All right. Step 3 is collapsing space and time, being, not doing. The biggest mistake I see people making when it comes to using these tools to change their reality is they keep creating visions for their future, visualizing day in and day out, but they see it as a future possibility and not a present fact. And the cherry on top is that they actually think that they're doing it right. And they get so frustrated when things don't change. They claim, oh, these tools don't work. Full disclosure, I was those people. And it's so easy to fall in that trap when you're testing quantum waters for the first time. But think about it even from a logical perspective. When you imagine a future potential for your life, which is significantly different from your current reality, are you the same? Are you being the same person? Is it the same level of consciousness that you're at right now? Are your convictions the same? Your beliefs, your thoughts, experiences, relationships? Because a change in self concept has to be mirrored out. You can visualize all you want, but without embodiment, you're just wishing on a shooting star. You're hoping for things to change. And we'll take an example to put this into perspective. Let's say a huge part of your ideal reality is financial abundance. And currently, your physical reality is reflecting back to you scarcity. That you never have enough money. There are always more bills than the earnings you can pay for. You're in debt. You're always feeling terrible about not having enough money. And you read all about this abundance and, like, oh, okay, I can attract a new reality from the field. As you start to visualize yourself with money, living in abundance, you can feel excited in your meditations, your visualizations. And after the mental rehearsal, when you go back to your day-to-day life, you go complaining about how you don't have money. Your job is terrible. They never pay you on time. There are too many bills, too many expenses. List goes on and on and on. And you're just complaining about the 3D, complaining about the 3D, complaining about the 3D. You need to like disconnect from it to allow it to change. Every time you complain about it, you affirm it. You leave your state of consciousness. You speak your past reality into existence over and over again by reinforcing your current conditions, which are nothing but a byproduct of your own reinforcement and energetic signature and past convictions. So, in other words, while you may be tapping into a higher timeline of abundance once a day, you don't live as if that's your reality. If you were to assume the wish fulfilled, that would mean you're already financially abundant. And if that were the case, you would not be complaining about there not being enough money. You would talk about money very differently. And this might feel delusional, but remember, a delusion is a reality that you can only see. Where can you see it? When you close your eyes in your inner knowing. The words you would speak on a day-to-day basis, the conversations you would have, the beliefs you would live by would be very different if your timeline is different. So you would say, man, I always have more money than I can spend. I feel grateful that at some point this was a desire, and now this gets to be the baseline for me. You change the way you speak about it. And being means feeling weird. Like it might feel weird, and that's okay. But you have to look at the 3D as if there's this lag. This movie is lagging, it's still buffering. But your inner reality, that's the real reality. So that movie is actually the movie that's playing, and this is a buffered, lagged reaction. So in that space that you're aware of this reality, and you see this lag. Why would you even the lag when you know of the actual reality? That's the whole thing. Once you're convicted in a higher state of consciousness, don't drop the ball over and over again. Live in your convictions. You know why? Because you are not the one that is manifesting anything into existence. When you have the inner knowing, you have the conviction, you have the faith to know that God is the doer of everything, and He is the one who is bringing it to you. You are not doing anything. Your job is to know what you want and what that looks like, and to simply surrender to how it finds you. It is not your job to know the how. And when you're guessing, and when you're thinking, and when you're being logical, you're saying, okay, God, I don't trust you enough. Why? Why? It might feel weird at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's it's too good to not experience it over and over again. You fall in love with the weirdness of it, the strangeness of it, the madness of it, because you know that the only way to shift this is to lose your mind. Losing your mind is to liberate your soul. The fourth step is feeling certainty and dropping importance. Now, feeling is the secret. Neville Gotti, we know him, love him. He says that he has a book called Feeling is the Secret. Feeling like your wish is already fulfilled. Now, here's the thing. I used to think that feeling like my wish is fulfilled meant feeling the excitement, the exhilaration of it, the oh my God. But the reality I'm in right now was once a dream, and it feels pretty normal to me. The feeling state is actually the state of certainty, a state of just knowing. The feeling of certainty is what it's all about. Certainty drops importance. Think about it. Something 5 years ago that was once a dream to you, and you were like, oh my God, this would be so amazing to have. And when you're in it, it's just normal. It's your baseline. That's just how life is. So if your dream is your reality, would you feel irritated, frustrated, anxious, stressed, helpless, stuck all the time? Absolutely not. No. You would be like, no, that's my baseline. I'm certain about it. Feeling certainty doesn't mean toxic positivity. Like, I will be so real with you. Um, I spent half of today literally bawling my eyes out over the stupidest things because of my freaking moon cycle. But I was crying and crying, and I was just like, oh my God. I'm still in this reality though. I still knew, even though I was crying, I knew that when I come here, doesn't matter what cramps I have, they don't exist when I'm in flow. Nothing else exists. I knew that when I will be here, I will pump magic in your veins because my conviction, my certainty has nothing to do with my emotions or my feelings in that moment. I can cry, I can whine about something and still be certain in my reality. This is not toxic positivity. I did not say, Anna, how could you be crying? You know, you have to be strong. No, you honor your freaking emotions. But just because you honor your emotions doesn't mean that your convictions fall apart. Your convictions, your certainty, your state of knowing, your state of certainty should not be that weak. It shouldn't be that weak. Certainty is knowing who you are moving with, because that's the most important state to master. And when you live in the God consciousness, in the awareness that I move with God, and because of that, time bends for me, reality shifts in my favor instantly. I decide, and it is. You are not doing anything, you're simply choosing. And when you're that certain, there is no importance. You don't put that thing on a pedestal. You don't say, oh my God, what a great reality to have. You're like, no, that's my normal. That's my baseline. And what about it? You got to be in the what about it state. All right. Step 5, intentional thinking. The quality of our thoughts. We've been told the quality of your thoughts is the quality of your life. If you're thinking negative thoughts, by default, you're going to have negative feelings. And over time, a state of being that mirrors the same. On an energetic level, thoughts are said to have an energetic structure that exists beyond our body in our energetic field. And each thought carries its own charge. And that charge draws to us experiences and events that are on the same frequency as that thought. No, I just want you to, when we talk about intentional thinking, hold up, let me charge my laptops. One sec. Um, Intentional thinking is about thinking from your wish fulfilled, not off it, from it. When you have shifted to that state of consciousness, now you're thinking from it. Now you are it. Your thoughts are bound to be different. This is where rampages and activations come in. Like, I don't know if you've, some of you have, I know that because I saw some familiar names here. Some of you have already experienced my rampages and activations. If you haven't, I'm going to send it an email after this. But just those are like injecting your mind, like literally, it's like infusing your subconscious with a new stream of thoughts, with thoughts that are now on the level of consciousness of your actual reality. You're thinking from the wish fulfilled. You have to, your thoughts run on autopilot. You need to decide which master are you serving? Are you serving your thoughts, or are your thoughts supposed to serve you? Are you the servant of your mind? Are you the servant of your subconscious? Are you the servant of your ego? Or will you be the master of it? Being in service to God means that being the master to your own self. That's what it is. So thinking from your wish fulfilled. All right, step 6. We're 10 minutes to closing time. Last step, and then we're doing a very short but insanely powerful activation. All right, step 6 is surrender. Now, someone sent me a message on Instagram this one time, and they were complaining. This girl, she was like, this was, I think, a year ago. She's like, Anna, I've tried your scripting method for attracting something in my life, and it didn't work. She said, I did the scripting, I even did a meditation, and I've been working so hard, but nothing seems to work. I just wanted you to know this stuff doesn't work. I even tried your being your future self thing. It doesn't work. I was like, girl, did you stop being your future self then? Like, because if you were the person for whom it had worked out, I doubt you'd be complaining or even stressed about how things would fall in place because they would have already happened. And she didn't reply to me. But the point is that when we're transitioning from being the type of person who always needs to control the outcome to learning how to trust God's timing and the manifestation of our wish fulfilled, it can feel challenging. It can feel confusing at first. The 3D way of creation is based on the idea that we need to do a lot of effort to get the desired outcome. That takes time. That takes effort. That takes a heck of a lot of stress. But when we bend time, when we collapse space, that means just by shifting your state of consciousness, everything comes to you. You are the magnet, you are the portal. But if you're attached to your outcome, you're attached to how it should find you, it won't work because you're creating your future from your past. The self that needed to control something, control everything, that needs things to be a specific way in order for you to feel whole. Surrender means that the moment you have assumed your wish fulfilled, you let it go. Period. You let it go. You don't need evidence. You don't need validation. You don't need the 3D world to give you permission to do anything, feel anything, be anywhere. You just day in and day out bathe in your wish fulfilled. Bathe in your wish fulfilled. See the world from that place. You don't spend time worrying about how it's going to come to you, how it's going to happen. You have blind faith that it already happened. Physical reality is just catching up. Your job description does not include knowing the how. Your job description does not include knowing the how. It is simply knowing what you want, knowing the end, being certain, and trust the fact that God will bring it to you in the easiest, fastest, most aligned way possible. And this will look like inspired action. This will look like a thought about, oh, I need to do this. And you simply act on the thought and it feels effortless. This webinar came from an inspiration. I was sitting and I was like, oh, I should do this. Period. Felt effortless. I actually spent only 2 hours structuring the script. And it felt effortless. It didn't feel like 2 hours, it felt like 2 minutes. This 90 minutes did not feel like 90 minutes. Like, how is there only 6 minutes left? It's the principle of least resistance. You will simply have an inspiration, you will act on it, and you will experience insane shifts in the 3D. But there's no attachment, there's no expectation of how it should happen. So many of people, they're so bent on how their manifestation to come to them. But that's not your job. Your job isn't to decode the how, it's just to live in the knowing. Like how much easier could God make life for us? How much easier? Think about it. This is the key to everything. It's the portal. You are the portal. You are the access key, right? So we got 5 minutes, all right? And we're gonna do an activation. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. Okay, 1 second. Just press a 1 in the chat if it's like, here's the 1. I love you guys so much. You're so awesome. All right. Okay. You want to know step 4? Step 4 is that there is no step. Okay. Step 4 is there's nothing. Trust me, everything you took from this transmission is exactly what you needed. That's it. It's exactly what you needed. Now, all I want you to do is in a moment. Okay. Can you hear the music? Press 1 if you can hear the music. Press 1. Okay, awesome. Nobody asked you to press a 0, man. All right. I want you to close your eyes, hands off the keyboard. Hands off the keyboard. Off the keyboard. Don't want to see anyone chatting anymore. Hands off the keyboard. Off the keyboard, Sean. All right, close your eyes. Everybody, close your eyes just for this moment and take a deep, fat, inviting, aware breath. In through the nose and slowly out through the mouth. And simply become aware of your breath. This is it. This is the moment every single thing changes for you. It has already changed for you. This is the moment where you are no longer in the business of visualizing your desires. You are stepping into them. You are them. You're not imagining your ideal life. It is nowhere out there. You are it. You are living from it right now. You are no longer in the business of thinking of the version of you that has it all. You are that version who has everything. You are the portal. You are the timeline jump. You are the quantum leap. You are the collapsing of time. I want you to take another very deep breath. Feel the present moment. Feel that you exist outside of time. Feel yourself transcending space. Right now, you are in the void of limitless possibilities, in the realm where everything exists at once. No matter what your desire is, I want you to see it as if it's happening right now. Not in the future, not a possibility. This is your reality in the present. You're not thinking about it. You are not thinking about something out there. You are it. You are thinking from it. The moment you become aware and awake, which is right now, you are aware and awake to the truth that your conviction is the only real reality. that every single thing in the 3D bends to your conviction because you move with God. And that is why you move at the speed of God. You are no longer hoping for anything, you are being it. This is not a possibility, this is a present reality. You are the version of you who already has it. You are living in your wish fulfilled every single moment. You are quantum locked in your highest timeline, in your end. You decide what the end is, because whatever you decide, it is whatever you say it is. It is however you say it is. God makes it for you that way for you. It is so easy for you to access your realist timeline, which is the timeline of your highest conviction. I want you to anchor in this timeline, quantum lock in this reality, and say this to yourself, whether out loud or in your mind. But I already have every single thing. That I am the portal. I am my wish fulfilled. I am my embodiment of my highest reality. I have every single thing I could ever desire right now. I deserve it, and it deserves to be, and it gets to be this easy for me because I am so insanely convicted that the 3D has no choice but to mirror my conviction. Time collapses to bring my desires to me. I am locked into this state. Space bends to align with me because God makes it that easy for me. I am anchored in this timeline. I am quantum locked in this state, unwavering in this knowing. This is my reality, my only reality. I am aware, awake, I am convicted, certain, and I move with God. And when I move with God, I don't need to figure out the how. I am the how. I don't need to wait for evidence. I am the evidence. I don't need to see it to believe it. I believe it, so I see it. It is done. And whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. It is whatever you say it is. It's to be that easy. But thank you so much for spending this time with me. For just, your most important your most important asset, your time. I'm so grateful for you. If you have any questions, because we've exceeded our time, which doesn't exist, you can email it to me. All right. You can email me your questions. But someone said, peed myself. You guys are so funny. But I love you so much. Thank you so, so much. I'm going to send you a replay access for 72 hours. Within 72 hours, you can watch the replay. All right. I freaking love that for you so much. All right. I love you guys so much, so much. Thank you. Thank you. And I will see you next time. If you have questions, email them to me or comment them on YouTube. You are magical. Just know that I am just a mirror reflecting you back to you. Okay. So go experience the magic in your life. All right. I love you, and I